This week on In Post, good old-fashioned dodge and burn with a cityscape in Seville, Spain. Hi everybody, my name is Scott Davenport and welcome to In Post, this show where I walk through the post-processing of one of my images, and most often it's one where I've shown you the behind the scenes from the actual shoot on an In the Field episode. If you haven't been watching those, check those out and you can get the full picture of, no pun intended, the full story behind the picture. So this week, processing an image from Seville, Spain, and it came down to dodging and burning, which really kind of made the difference of this being a shot that I was comfortable enough with sharing. I'm not going to lie and say this is the best picture I've ever taken, but it really came down to some just final touches with dodge and burn that made all the difference in the world. So let's just dive in. We'll start in Lightroom, do a little styling in On1, and then I'll show you the point that I got to where I said something still doesn't feel right, and where dodging and burning helped out with that. So in Lightroom, I've done a basic crop, and that's about it so far. The first thing was to deal with noise reduction. So I want to zoom in here first and show you there's a whole lot of noise in this image, and that's because we took it at 1600 ISO. As I mentioned in the field episode, I needed to do that because of some vibration happening during this shoot. Wrong keystroke. There we go. So let's go ahead and apply the noise reduction. There we are. And my snapshot must not have had the crop in it. That certainly cleans things up a whole lot more, so that's nice. Next is to white balance. So this felt a little bit dingy, and it was certainly more blue in the sky. So I used in the basic panel just the eyedropper, and chose one of these neutral grays right here along the edge of this modern structure here on the parasol, and that was as simple as that. Moving on, there's our crop. So we'll redo our crop, tighten that up, and that was really just the image before that just felt I don't know, too far away. I didn't like the spires weren't grabbing enough attention in the background. And then for tone and presence, so this is adjusting all the exposures, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. Whites I didn't have to change because I'd done the white balance and that looked good. And did bump clarity quite a bit and a touch of vibrance, but vibrance I can't go too far because of a lot of this overblown orangey yellowish color on the cathedrals here. The problem I have with Lightroom at this stage is I want to tone these down, but I don't want to tone down the yellows that are here. I actually want to increase them here. And the brushes that are available, all I have control over is saturation, and I could desaturate. That's not really what I want to do. I just want to tone down the brightness. Long story short, these are the types of things that I prefer to jump into the On1 tools for, because the masking is just, for me, easier than doing things with the brushes. So let's head on over into On1 and start that up. So the first thing is jumping right into color enhancers. I want to rein back the yellowish and orange tones on these cathedrals. So I accepted the auto selection and let color enhancer warm this up a little and remove a slight color cast that it's detecting. I didn't notice much, but I'll take its word for it. I'm happy with it. In the oranges, bringing down saturation, bringing down brightness, and that is really reining in the cathedrals here. And the same in the yellow color range. Let's try that again. There we go. So again, saturation getting pulled down, brightness getting pulled down. As I did that, I just watched the background. And so here is, before we did that, and here's after. Just pulls that in and we get to see more detail. And you notice the masking bug here. Control M for the bug. I'm not applying the color enhancer, and so I'm not toning down the yellows and oranges in the foreground. I like the yellow here, and I'm actually going to amp that up. Let's go to the next color enhancer. Click on that. Wait for it to load here. There we go. All right. Oh, that took a little bit of time. One of the horrors of running your screen capture. Okay, make sure I do a cut here. All right, so color enhancer here, doing the opposite in the yellows. I'm actually bringing the saturation very high up as well as the vibrance. And you can see the masking bug here is only applying that yellow effect to the foreground. So giving this section of the parasol some, some unique separation by virtue of color. Now, another color enhancer, and this is going to target our sky area and deepen the blues of the sky. Right, there we go. So here we've got the blues shifting a little more toward twilighty purple, increasing saturation, and actually brought down the brightness as well, just to give that sky a little bit of a deeper tone. Control M, you can see the mask, and the effect is only being applied to the sky. So the way I went about this was actually, when you apply the color enhancer, it's affecting everything. I inverted the mask, so the color enhancer was affecting nothing, and then used our masking brush, switched it to paint in, and then painted through the sky using the perfect brush right there. And so that made a nice clean mask all the way through the sky. And from here on in, standard stuff. So now I add a little bit of contrast. Dynamic contrast loaded, and this is I'm really accentuating these foreground large grids that are created by all this metal lattice work. And also, some additional smalls, mainly for the background to give a little more crispness there. And finally, a vignette. So clicking on the vignette, I wanted to let me see if I shifted that vignette center. I believe I did. Yeah. So you can see the vignette center is placed right about here, and then played around with the size and the roundness until I got something that looked good and faded it in. And so that is the set of work in Perfect Effects. So finishing up in Effects, this is about where I still didn't feel right. Something just felt off about this photo. And back in Lightroom, I'm looking at it, and there wasn't enough separation between the foreground structure and the backdrop of the city. And it just dawned on me, let me try out some dodging and burning. So let's go ahead and do that and see what the difference that makes for the image. So to guide the eye a little bit more and get some more separation between the foreground and the background, I turned to the brushes in Lightroom, the adjustment brush, and really just starting with the burn and dodge settings. I've got two different brushes set here, so let me float over the, actually let me turn the brushes back on. So once you watch this area here, the kind of the city, like the small buildings and city background, and then this portion right here when I turn on the brushes. So you're going to see the foreground gets a little darker, this gets a little brighter, and these areas soften a bit as well. And so I did that with two different brushes. You can see I've got one here and one here. If I click on this one, you'll see, if I hover over that, it's affecting just this portion of the parasol. And over on the right-hand side, you can see the exposure has been raised up almost a full stop. So that's brightening up this area quite a bit. Now for the other brush, click on that one. See, it's a lot of different areas that have been brushed away. And I'm doing two things there. Again, over on the right-hand side, exposure has been brought down just maybe a quarter stop or so. I also lowered the sharpness, so our eyes are going to lock on to things that are sharper in an image by default. And so that softens these other areas and makes me look, kind of here, lead down the walkway, catch this nice and sharp, and of course our large cathedrals are nice, secondary subjects as well. So adding that in, these, just this simple dodge and burn, that really kind of helped the final image have a little more pop and a little more punch. And so there it is, really, that I think that the biggest impact was the burning of the back skyline and the dodging of that swoop curve on the left-hand side, and that brightened that up a little bit. And again, this is not the best photo I have taken. I have others from Seville, from many other places I like more. But the dodging and the burning made the difference between this is something that I'll share on my website. I'll share with you so you can see some of the process. Versus, well, yeah, this is a photo. It just didn't quite work out the way I thought it would, and it stays in the library, hidden from the world. And so that's the tip of the week: dodging and burning. Those little subtle touches to raise brightness in one area where I want someone to look, or I want more separation between foregrounds and backgrounds or objects or whatever it might be, and burning to complement that same dodging effect. That is it for this week in post. Hope you've enjoyed it and picked up some tips you can use on your post-processing. And if you have a question, I would like to hear from you. Love getting your questions. Those make me think about my photography, which helps me, and hopefully my answers will help you. And then we can all become better photographers together. So don't be shy, reach out. I'm an approachable guy. Hope to hear from you soon. And in the meantime, happy shooting.